Hey guys, Connor here with Enhanced Pickleball, and today we're going to go over the top 8 mistakes that could be holding back your game. If you're in the 3-0 to 4-0 range, I guarantee you're making a good amount of these, even if you don't want to admit it. So be honest with yourself and try to find the top few mistakes in here that you need to focus on. If you're making these and you don't stop, there's a good chance you'll never make it out of 3-0 to 4-0 prison. So take out the notepad and let's get into it. So the first mistake is that players are unprepared or afraid at the net. Just know, as you get better at pickleball, your reflex volleys and your reaction time at the net is probably the most important skill that you need to get to a high level. I see so many players in the 3.0 to 4.0 level that just aren't prepared for these fast hands exchanges. They come up here and they're sort of just expecting to get an easy shot that they can put away. But once you get to that 4.0, 4.5 level, that's not gonna happen. You're almost always gonna have to put in some work and a fast hands exchange to win the point. So when you get up here, you need to make sure that you have your hands out in front, okay? So that's first and foremost. A lot of people say that you want to lean your paddle to the left. You just want to be in the best possible position to react for any volley, okay? So what that means is you're on balance with your legs, your hands are out in front, you're leaning your paddle slightly to the left so that you can guard your body with the backhand, because a lot of the time the ball comes right at your body. What's important though to always remember is that you need to have a system when you're up here. The best players don't just come up to the kitchen line and because they're so good, they win every time. They've practiced it time and time again with the right technique and the right mindset. So everything out in front, you don't want to take a big backswing. You want to keep your backswing very compact so that you can react quickly. You also want to have a close eye on your opponent, right? Because if I'm just expecting them to dink it back to me over and over again, eventually they're going to hit it really hard and I'm not going to be ready for it. So every time my opponent hits the ball, I'm watching his backswing, trying to see if he's going to go for a dink or a speed up. See there? Took a bigger backswing, and I'm more prepared now to counterattack. The higher your level gets though, the more your quick hands will matter, so do not be making this mistake. Always have a system when you're at the kitchen to react quickly to any volley. The next huge mistake that I see players making is they don't have a plan B. They have one playing style that they use and they don't change it no matter what. So let's say you're a banger or someone that generally hits harder and it's not working. You need to be able to change that strategy and adjust so that you can win. Or for instance, if you're getting into a bunch of dinking rallies and you can't handle their speed ups, something needs to change. The point is, the best players have a plan B that's just as good as their plan A. You don't want to be a one-dimensional player. So if you solely rely on your soft game, maybe work on being more aggressive and vice versa. In closer matches, this ideology could be what gets you to win. So the number one way you see players being one-dimensional is they are bangers. They're trying to win every point with power and it's not working. I can't come in because he's getting everything right at my feet. So if this sounds like you, what you can do is try to add a little bit of the soft game into your game. And that doesn't mean that you have to even drop, guys. If you can't drop your third shot, that's totally fine. But maybe I go for a drive, I hit a slightly lower ball, that lets me come in to where I can be aggressive. Just something like that. What's important, guys, is that you make adjustments if things aren't working. So if a certain strategy isn't working for you, it's important that you have the ability at least to change things up. This goes hand in hand with our last mistake on the list, so make sure to watch both to get the full benefit. At number 4, the next mistake is that you move forward at the wrong time and you stay back when you should move forward. Okay, so there's a few different examples of how you could get this wrong. So the first example, guys, is I see a lot of players that use their drive and try to come in off of this, okay? So you can't really come in off of a drive if you're giving them a high, easy shot. So if you hit a drive and you think it's good, it stays low and it's powerful, what you should do, take a step in, but don't go in all the way. Set yourself here, and if they pop it up a little bit, so if you get a pop-up, you can move forward and crush that shot. This applies if your partner hits a good drive too, okay? So you're gonna move forward to about this area. On the other hand, they might actually be able to get it low and hard at your feet. So if that happens, by staying back here, you give yourself an opportunity to stay in the point. The other situation where players mess up moving forward is off of a drop. So if you're hitting your drops, the first thing you do after you hit the ball is you're watching to see where it's going to land, okay? If I see that my ball is going to land in a position where Drew has to hit up on the ball, that's my cue to move forward. If he's gonna be able to hit down on the ball, that's my cue to stay back. If it's somewhere in the middle, I can move in a little bit to the transition zone, okay? So we'll go over some examples of that in real time. Here, I'm gonna hit my drop on this next ball. See that it's really low, he's gonna have to hit up. I'm straight into the kitchen, okay? What you don't wanna do here, and I see so many players do this at the 3.0 to 4.0 level, is you hit a good drop and you don't recognize it until too late and you stay back, so it doesn't even matter. So that would look something like this. I would hit my drop on this next ball. It's gonna be good, but I'm clueless, so now he can go right at my feet, which makes things really difficult. So the second, guys, the second you even think that it's gonna be good, you need to start moving in, right? Because you wanna get there as quickly as you possibly can. And right when he makes contact with that next shot, split step so you're on balance. This all goes back to making the right decisions and being a smart player. And so does our next mistake, which is that you don't want to be trigger happy. Being trigger happy is essentially the opposite of being patient. Being patient is one of the best ways to win matches. So the number one place that players can be trigger happy is at the kitchen. In this situation at the kitchen, when you're trigger happy, you're trying to go for speed ups on balls, but you don't really have the best opportunity. And if you're playing players that don't have that good of reflexes, this actually can work, but against the best players, they're gonna kill you with counterattacks. So when we're thinking about playing at the kitchen, we always think about every ball that we hit in 3 different zones. Okay, so we got the red zone, which is below here, so in this area. If you're getting a shot and you're making contact with it in this area, you generally don't really ever wanna speed up on it. You usually wanna just get it into the kitchen with a dink. The next area is the yellow zone, which is right here. Here, you're gonna be able to go for more aggressive dinks, and occasionally, if the ball's sitting up a little bit more, you can go for a speed up, okay? So in this area is where you kind of have to make the decisions. If you're getting a ball in the red zone, you pretty much never want to go for a speed up. If you're doing that, you're definitely trigger happy. The yellow zone, you just need to be a little bit more selective and wait for the right ball, okay? So maybe that means it's a little higher, maybe that means you see an opportunity to change direction, but just know that this is the area where you can decide whether to speed up or hit a dink, okay? When it's above here, you generally want to go big for a speed up or a put away every single time, okay? So in the green zone up here, you're gonna go big no matter what. It's actually bad if you were to dink that shot, okay? So if I'm dinking here with Drew, a trigger happy person would look like this. We're trying to speed up the ball in the red zone, and when you speed up the ball from a lower point, guys, what happens is it goes up. So when you go up with a shot like that, you're potentially giving your opponent a high ball that they can kill, right? And you also might just hit it long, given the trajectory of the ball. You just can't hit it very hard from this angle. Okay, so now I'm gonna get a shot in the yellow zone, okay? So that could be out of the air too. That was actually a good opportunity. See, so here, when it's up this high, I can actually draw a line directly to the ground, so I can hit it pretty hard, right? So that gives me the opportunity to speed up, all right? So whenever you're at the kitchen, guys, the higher your level gets, the less opportunities you're gonna get. Regardless, you always wanna wait for a shot that's in at least the yellow zone, so you can speed up and win the point in a smart way. The main lesson that you can take away from this section is that when you're in doubt, when you aren't for sure that going big will win you the point, just get it in the kitchen. By doing that, your opponent, you neutralize the rally and your opponent can't do much, okay? So when in doubt, go for the kitchen. And guys, if you're trying to improve your game, make sure to subscribe so that YouTube shows you our videos. As you're learning pickleball, it's important that you study and pick up on new knowledge so that your game doesn't plateau. We upload pretty much every week, so subscribe to make sure you don't miss our content. The next mistake is a big one though, and it's more of a mental thing. I'm talking about how when many players feel like they're playing bad, they let it affect their level of effort. An important thing to remember is that you're not always gonna feel like you're playing your best. Even on your very best days, certain shots are gonna feel off. So you never wanna go out to play and try to play good, so to speak. So you don't wanna like start off and maybe you're not feeling your best. You don't wanna be like working to try to make everything feel good. What you wanna do is focus on your footwork and your strategy and use that in conjunction to what you have in your game that day. So maybe if your drop is really on that day, you're gonna go super hard into your soft game, right? You're gonna use your drop as much as you can, get up to the kitchen and try to win like that. But if you're missing all of your drops, you might have to adjust, right? You might have to use more drives. You might have to be a little bit more creative in how you're winning your points, right? How you're strategizing. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? The key is that on each given day, you're gonna feel different, right? And you take how you feel that day and you create the best possible strategy to win. The next mistake though could be the biggest on the list that I see, and it's that you aren't embracing a more advanced strategy. Driving every third shot and trying to win all your points from the back can only take you so far. If this sounds like you, eventually you're gonna need to work into using your soft game more and start playing like a high-level pickleball player. I think a lot of players struggle with this because it seems really black and white in terms of using drives and then switching to a drop. But you don't have to make such a drastic change, okay? What I like to tell my students is that if you're someone that uses a lot of drives on your third shots, what you can start to do is use slower, more dippy shots. You don't have to transition to a drop. So maybe you're using what's called a drop drive at first. All that matters is that you're making your opponent hit up on the ball. So right, I can go for a shot more like this, which is similar to a drive and kind of like a drop, but it gives me a little bit more margin for error and that I don't have to make the ball land into the kitchen, okay? The better that you get at that shot, you can sort of transition. So I'll go through a progression of what it looks like. So I'm gonna start off using my drive, okay? This is my drive drop. I'll do another drive drop, and then I can just sort of change that into a normal drop like that, okay? So the better that you get at your drive drop, that'll transition into your drop too, see? So you don't have to go straight from the drive to the drop, okay? I think that's a pretty tough transition. Go slowly, start using your drive drop, trying to dip the ball into the kitchen area, right? It can go behind the kitchen though, totally fine. And then as you get better at that, maybe start to throw in some drops, and then that'll make it way easier for you to move forward. The best players can win on their worst days, and they do this by focusing on the fundamentals, like their footwork and their strategy. Lack of footwork though is another one of the biggest mistakes that you can make. Every shot on the court depends on good footwork. If you're not moving your feet well, you'll struggle on every single aspect of your game. If you're at the 3.0 to 4.0 level, you probably have a good idea of how to move your feet depending on where you are on the court. The key is that you just don't let your effort drop throughout the points and throughout your games. Throughout your games, this is something that you're gonna have to remind yourself of over and over again, okay? So focus on your footwork, and I guarantee your level will go up. I remember when I was a tennis player, young tennis player, and I was maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, my dad would tell me that before every point, I needed to say to myself, footwork, footwork, footwork. Because if you don't say that, it's really easy to get lazy, right? I mean, naturally, we don't wanna be bouncing around. You don't wanna be taking a bunch of steps to get ready for the shots, right? When you're at the kitchen, you don't wanna stay low and take these big lunging steps to get yourself in the right position, okay? So this is something that you're gonna need to constantly be instilling into your brain, that you need to be moving your feet well throughout every point, regardless of where you are on the court. So focus on your footwork, and your consistency on every shot will improve. And if you guys wanna learn the full strategy on how to beat bangers, watch this.